Amidst the flow of time. Part 3. As the sun began to set, Mr. Seung-woo recalled his time with his wife in the church choir. The hours spent gathering at the church each week to practice hymns together and create beautiful harmonies during worship. Services were a great joy to both of them. His wife, with her bright and positive personality, was especially popular among the choir members. The cheerful jokes she would tell during practice sessions always brought laughter to everyone. Now, in the choir practice room, his wife's empty seat remained. For the first while, tears would stream down his face every time he saw that seat, making it difficult to sing the hymns properly. However, as time passed, seeing the empty seat no longer brought tears as it used to. The sharpness of the sorrow had dulled, but the depth of his longing for his wife remained profound. The moments they had exchanged glances while singing hymns together, the times they had talked about how the practice went on their way home afterwards, came back to him faintly. Mr. Seung-woo recalled the jokes his wife used to tell frequently during her lifetime. At the time, he had thought they were just ordinary jokes, but now, thinking back, they were all lovely aspects of his wife. His heart ached at the fact that he could no longer hear such jokes. However, he quietly hoped that someday he would meet his wife again and encounter those cheerful moments once more. A faint but unextinguished spark of hope flickered within his heart. As evening fell, Mr. Seung-woo began to do some housework. Even while folding laundry and cleaning, memories of his wife lingered by his side. In particular, he found the duck doll his wife always hugged while sleeping. The soft touch of the duck doll seemed to faintly retain his wife's scent. Every time he saw the doll, he remembered his wife's image, sleeping peacefully while holding the doll in her arms. Mr. Seung-woo carefully put the duck doll into the washing machine and started it. As the cleanly washed doll hung on the drying rack, drying fluffily in the sunlight, it looked peaceful. That night, just as his wife always did, he held the duck doll tightly as he went to bed. His heart held a fervent wish. He hoped that if he hugged this doll while sleeping, his wife might appear in his dreams and come to him. Late at night, Mr. Seung-woo, half asleep, hugged the duck doll even tighter. It was as if he was trying to feel his wife's warmth within the doll's softness. He desperately wished to see his wife's face again, even if only in a dream, just once. A complex expression of sorrow, longing, and faint hope crossed his sleeping face. The duck doll remained quietly in his arms, unchanging. The next morning, although his wife did not appear in his dream, Mr. Seung-woo woke up feeling somewhat comforted, as if thanks to hugging the duck doll while sleeping. His wife's absence was still significant, but the things she had left behind and the memories they shared gave him the strength to live on. He placed the duck doll neatly by his pillow and prepared to start his day.
Up next, story explanation.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're stepping into a really personal space. We're exploring a moving yay that's a term for like a personal story or account adapted from a real one here.
Mm-hmm.
And this story, it really gets into grief, memory, and how someone finds a path forward after losing someone close.
Exactly. And it's not about finding some neat resolution, right? It's more about looking at the ongoing process, the complexity of living with sadness.
Yeah.
The story we're focusing on today follows a man, Seung-woo, as he navigates time after his wife passed away.
So our mission here for this deep dive is to really get into the first three parts of the story you've shared. We want to understand the emotional journey, the importance of memories, objects.
The weight they carry.
Right, and where he finds that quiet strength, even when things feel so overwhelmingly sad. And as we go through this, think about what stands out to you listening in.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with those early moments, the first part of the story.
Okay, so when we first meet Seung-woo, it's about a year after his wife passed. The initial raw shock, maybe it softened a bit, but that deep ache, her absence, That's still defining everything for him, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And what's really striking in that first part is how comfort comes from unexpected places. Like from others remembering his wife.
The messages from friends, Hannah, Kim and Sue.
Yeah, exactly. Lee Kunga, too.
Yeah.
Sharing their own memories of her. It wasn't just sympathy. It was more like an affirmation. That she was real, she mattered, she was remembered. It validates his connection to her, you know?
You mentioned Hannah's messages especially helped him feel like she was still somehow near.
The account suggests, yeah.
Yeah.
A sense of presence through memory.
And it wasn't just people, it was everyday things too, like that instant porridge scene. That wasn't just, a quick meal.
No, not at all. The story really shows it as a direct link back to when she was ill. Something he could grab quickly because, well, he couldn't leave her side, really. Or just looking at photos. Seeing her smile. Boom, that wave of longing hits him again. Everything around him, it seems, just highlighted her absence.
Creating that feeling you mentioned that his life had just stopped while the world kept going.
Right, that sense of time being frozen for him while everything else marches on, it feels very true to that experience of deep grief.
And his quiet talks with her photograph, the empty spaces in the house, her side of the bed. They weren't just like physical emptiness.
No, exactly. They were emotional voids permeating his whole day. A constant, quiet echo of the life they built together.
Okay, so and the story moves into the second part, and his focus shifts, right, to a place they shared.
The weekend farm.
Ah, the farm.
Yeah, and the account describes it not just as like land, but as this space they fill together. Shared work, shared happiness. It takes us back a couple of years before.
To that spring day, getting seedlings.
Exactly, starting this project together. And his wife, she apparently found just pure joy in watching things grow. From tiny sprouts to actual fruit. It was really their space.
And then finding her tools there. The small shovel, the watering can.
And the notebook.
Right, the notebook.
That's where it gets really, powerful. It wasn't just a logbook. The story says it was full of her meticulous notes.
Like really detailed.
Incredibly detailed. What was planted where, when things were watered, notes on seedlings, all dated. And she even added little drawings.
Wow. So finding that, it wasn't just finding an object, it was like finding a piece of her actual effort, her care.
It really was.
Yeah.
It becomes this tangible connection. Of course, the thought of doing it alone, tending the farm, that felt heavy.
I can only imagine.
But seeing her careful work in that notebook, the story says it gave him this resolve.
Yeah.
To keep it going.
Following her notes.
Yeah. It becomes his way of honoring her. A quiet, ongoing act of love, even though she's not there.
And there's that memory in this part, too, about them talking about heaven, meeting again, visiting places they missed. At the time, maybe it felt sweet, a bit whimsical even, but now?
Now, it takes on this incredibly deep, poignant meaning, doesn't it? It shows how even casual moments can gain this immense, almost heartbreaking weight after loss.
Yeah.
It shifts from, a future idea to this profound longing, maybe even a quiet hope that helps him face the present.
Okay, so let's follow Seung-woo into the evening then, in part 3. After the farm memories, where does the story take him?
It moves to another shared space, another source of shared joy, actually. The church choir they were both in.
Oh, all right.
The account talks about their weekly practice, singing together. And we learn a bit more about his wife here. Bright, positive, really well-liked by the other choir members, known for her sense of humor.
So singing together was a big part of their life.
Clearly a very happy, significant part, creating that harmony together.
But now, in the story's present, seeing her empty seat.
Oof, yeah. That empty seat becomes this really potent symbol, not just for him, but for that whole community, right? The story mentions that at first it was just unbearable. He could hardly sing through the tears.
Understandable.
And while maybe that sharp, raw edge of grief has softened a little over time, the story makes it clear the depth of that longing hasn't lessened. It's still immense.
The seat's empty, but the memories aren't.
Exactly. Those memories are vivid. Glances they shared while singing, talking about practice on the way home, all those little things.
And her jokes. You mentioned her humor. Those specific small things suddenly feel so incredibly precious, don't they? So irreplaceable.
They really do. Her jokes were just part of their life. Now they represent this piece of her. He just can't get back directly. That sadness is palpable.
Yeah.
But the story also hints at this quiet, enduring hope that maybe, somehow, someday, he'll experience those moments with her again.
So after revisiting those choir memories, the story shifts again, back to the evening routine. Folding laundry, cleaning, just mundane tasks.
Right. And it's during these everyday chores that he finds something else, something incredibly poignant.
Okay.
He finds his wife's duck plushie.
Oh, the one she used to hug when she slept.
That's the one. And the story really uses sensory details here. The softness of it, the faint scent of her still there.
Wow.
And the memory it triggers is so vivid, seeing her sleeping peacefully, holding it.
So it's way more than just a stuffed animal now. It's like a vessel for memory, a physical link to her comfort.
Totally. And his act of washing it, the account describes it really carefully. It feels almost symbolic, doesn't it? Like tending to this object so closely tied to her presence, her peace.
Yeah, like caring for the memory itself.
And seeing it drying in the sun, described as peaceful.
Ah.
It's a striking image.
And then he decides to sleep with it that night.
Yeah, and this is where that longing just feels so intense in the narrative. His deep, deep hope is that by holding this thing, so connected to her sleep, maybe she'll appear in his dream.
Just wanting to see her face again.
Exactly, even just in a dream.
Yeah.
The scene described him sleeping, holding it tight. It's incredibly powerful. Captures that intense yearning.
That image, his sleeping face, sad but also longing, maybe with that tiny flicker of hope, and the plushie just there in his arms. It's really moving.
It shows the complexity, doesn't it? Grief isn't just one note. It's sorrow, yes, but also these threads of hope, connection, yearning, all woven together.
And the next morning, the story says she didn't appear in his dream.
No, she didn't. But importantly, the account notes that holding the plushie still gave him some comfort.
Oh.
Her absence is still huge. That empty space is undeniable. But these items, these memories she left behind, even a simple plush toy, they offer these tiny points of connection.
Little anchors.
Yeah, anchors that give him strength, help him face the day. And we see him placing it carefully by his bedside before he starts his morning, integrating it.
So if we bring together these threads from the first three parts, the initial grief, the farm memories, the choir, these objects, what does this journey start to show us about navigating loss like this?
Well, what's really clear is how Seung-woo's experience shows that grief isn't this linear thing where you just move on from A to B.
Right, it's not neat.
Not at all. It's much more about finding ways to carry the memory of the person with you, integrating the loss into your life.
Like with the farm notebook or the plushie.
Exactly. Those aren't just things he looks at sometimes. They become part of his ongoing reality. It's this continuous negotiation with her absence, finding connection in the everyday.
And those objects, the porridge, photos, notebook, the duck, the story shows there's so much more than just stuff.
Oh, absolutely. They're incredibly powerful, tangible links. Anchors, like you said, to shared spaces, the farm, the choir room, to shared experiences, jokes, songs, conversations.
They keep her presence alive somehow.
They do. In his mind, yes, but also physically in his environment.
Yeah.
And they trigger pain sometimes, for sure, but also these moments of profound, maybe unexpected comfort.
And we do see shifts over time, right? Even subtle ones, like maybe going from raw tears at the empty choir seat to maybe being able to see it without immediately breaking down.
Even if the depth of the longing itself hasn't changed.
Right.
Exactly. That acute, sharp pain might lessen, but the love, the longing, it endures. And the story shows him finding these small comforts, these sources of strength in unexpected places, tending the farm, holding the plushie.
It's like this quiet resilience emerges, holding on to connection.
Precisely.
The story really makes you think, what can we learn from Seung-woo's experience about love, about memory, how they last?
I think it's a powerful reminder that even when loss feels overwhelming, people find ways to live. They find ways to connect with the past and draw strength from it to find meaning now.
Yeah.
This account you shared really highlights how someone's legacy lives on, not just in big memorials, but in the quiet everyday details, the objects they touched, the routines they shared.
So this deep dive has really focused on these initial parts of Seung-woo's story, the immediate aftermath, how memories and objects become so central.
And it's clear his journey is, well, far from over.
Yeah.
These first steps are so important, though, for understanding how he starts to navigate this new reality, holding the past close while figuring out the future.
And the story continues beyond what we've covered. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? How does he keep going? How does he keep honoring his wife?
What tentative steps might he take next, while still holding on to that love, those memories?
Yeah. It leaves us with something to think about, maybe for ourselves, too.
Definitely. How do our own memories of people we've loved shape the path we take? And where do we find that quiet strength to keep going when faced with loss? Something to really ponder.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps us create even better content.